Let's freaking lose it! Get out of your mind! Get out of your...
What I'm really upset about is the fact that there is nobody else I'm meeting in my direct contact in the web that I've met. I used to have 1,000 and some odd people, even almost 2,000 at one point, way back in 2010, the end of 2010, people on my Facebook list. And it was rare for me to ever find somebody that had a very similar outlook, that really wanted to do the things I wanted to do because they wanted to, not because I wanted them to and they did it. I want to have authentic relationships with people, but when you don't have a lot of in common with people, what are you to do? I'm not always a positive person these days, and people don't seem to care or want to handle that. I have one really, really good friend right now that talks to me almost every day online. We've met in person. Oh, that was another place. I met some people online. I met this girl that I'm talking about in Kentucky, and then we went to Florida. Both of us went to Florida to take Dr. Morris's course. And, yeah, and with a couple of the other people I had met in Kentucky. But this girl and we go through a lot of similar things. We talk a lot. Sometimes I even push her away. I've noticed I find it hard sometimes to not be able to be in person with that person. However, I come out of my mind, come to my senses, and get right back on there and talk to her. And her and I have even Skyped, but she has since realized, since I've told her, and she hasn't, as far as I know, and we have an open, authentic relationship where we tell each other everything that we're feeling, and we're honest with each other, and I really value that. But as far as I know, she's okay with the fact that I just can't Skype. She is in the same position. You know, sometimes when you don't have contact, I don't know what it is. Maybe I feel like I might get on there and talk too long or say too much, and I feel like people don't want to hear that. I've already brought that up before. I think that people do not want to hear what I have to say. I just feel like, sure, if they're asking me to Skype, they'll be like, oh, we're talking, I need to be off of here by 11. And so I notice eventually that 11 o'clock comes around, but they're continuing past 11 o'clock. They're talking, or maybe I'm saying something, and I'm of the belief that we should always get out what we need to get out, whether it be them or me. I've stayed on the phone many hours while someone sat there and spout from the time I was younger till the time of now for hours while someone talked about what was going on with them and a guy, or what was going on, you know, them and a girl. And so I'm just of the impression, but if you don't want to be talking to the person, that's a different story. I don't suggest getting on that phone or on Skype if you can't set proper boundaries. If you get to the point where you learn how to set a proper boundary and sticking to it, get on there by all means. And even in person, I have a hard time doing that, but at least, you know, it's different. It's totally different. I don't know, maybe that's just my view. I don't understand it really. I really like personal relationships and getting to know a person in that way authentically. I've always been like that. However, if I'm feeling something, I'd rather type it out on Facebook or text it. There was a point where I'd be like, oh my God, can't I just call you instead of typing or texting? It's going to take too long. However, people and maybe I'm bitter or something, but people would be like, oh, I don't really have time right now. Like, can't you just type it to me? Or maybe you can call me later. Or I'm busy. Or excuse. And so I noticed I kind of started picking up the little bit of the excuse mentality. But what it really is that I am afraid to set a boundary and not stick to it, or if somebody else starts their boundary with me, and if I don't honor their boundary, I feel guilty. Sometimes. I can't lie. There are times where they're like, oh my god, I really gotta go. And this could be slightly vengeful. However, I'm telling you, like, if you're gonna sit there and this is, maybe it stems from resentment, maybe I'm trying to get them back, I imagine. I am not sure. It could be either way. Could be just that I want to be heard as well. And so people will start a conversation with me. They'll ask me how I am, and I'll start telling them. And they may not be comfortable with how honest I'm being about how I'm feeling and what's going on. And it's like they either get bored of it or something. And so they're like, oh, okay, well, I gotta go now. And to me, that feels like rejection. Because if I'm gonna sit there and hear you out and listen to you until the end of how you're feeling, which could be hours, I want the same exact treatment. And that can't always be so. However, if you're like, I gotta go, because, it could be anything. I might have to go, or whatever. It's hard. It's hard to balance that. I just want to be able to live and let live. After having that experience tonight, it opened my eyes again. And that's pretty sad that you have to have physical symptoms showing you what's, going on or what's starting to brew up in your body. All due to toxic thinking and behaviors and toxic people and toxic foods, toxic environment. You know what? Every time I say that, I don't even know if I believe half of that. Because okay, my heart is racing. Shallow breath. I'm just getting really nervous talking about this stuff, and I'm losing my train of thought because I'm getting uncomfortable with what I imagine that I'm getting uncomfortable with what I'm talking about. And that's another thing that, keeps me from wanting to do the phone and stuff like that. A lot of people say it comes down to how you think of things and what you're doing and what are your behaviors towards these situations. Like, did you cause it? Yeah, apparently we're the cause of everything we do. I'm sorry, but if there's yin and yang in this world, I perceive that everything's 50-50. People are like, oh, you just gotta be grateful for your now. I was always grateful for being social and always wanting to do exercise. I would dance in my room for 3 or 4 hours a day after school, or, even on weekends, if longer. And then I would go and spend time with friends. And then we would do, like, fun things like cartwheels. And it almost makes me, sad when I see. I'm happy for the people that get to live that way now. But when I see people living like that, and they just look at me thinking, what a waste of a human being, it makes me sad. Because I can be that person again. I was that person. Something is here. Shield. Something. Or, I just remember when I was younger, never or rarely ever, feeling like I lacked things until high school. And I started going through these depressions. It starts coming on when you get hurt. Every time there's a trauma, it would come on for me. Like, even if like a friend and I got in a huge fight or something would bring it on. And it felt better to just step back sometimes and like, be like, oh. And then I just got really, really comfortable over the years when people kept saying no more and no, I can't hang out. No, I don't want to. Or you're a bitch. I don't want to be friends anymore. And I'm not trying to give you the wrong impression that I was some big bitch. I had a lot of friends. And sure, there was a bit of drama surrounding it sometimes, but what friendship doesn't when you're a teenager, seriously? And, yeah, I started growing up really fast throughout the end of my teen years. And so fast that some of my friends couldn't stand it, you know? Like near the end, like grade 12. And they kind of just started distancing themselves. And there might be a correlation from when I started with my going out with my husband, because he didn't want me to always hang out with my friends at one point. It all comes down to the choices I make. You know, I keep the friends I have because I love them, because I cherish them, because I do anything for them. If they don't want to spend time with me, I don't know where to go. People are always like, oh, like a lot of my family members and stuff are like, you need to find new friends. Local friends, you need to find new friends. Leave those old ones behind. They're obviously not having enough time for you. You don't need to make time for them. And I don't feel that way. Everybody deserves a chance. Everybody deserves love. But I'm putting myself in this constant situation of being let down. I can't say I'm perfect. I got really upset when, certain friends couldn't or wouldn't make time to hang out or even message me or anything. I don't know. And the point of going to find someone new, a new friend, it lasts, we hit it off, we're like this, it's just like the whole RawBroads thing. We hit it off, we're like this at first, and then something goes, both of us change during the whole thing, like resentments start flaring up. That's why it's so important when you meet new people to start out authentic. You start out strong and you keep on going. If you don't, people get in the habit of lying to their friends over and over and over. And I still catch myself trying to fib. Then I'm like, no, okay, let me explain this. Let me get more into this. I might not even realize it at the time because it's second nature. I could psychoanalyze all this stuff like all day, all night. As soon as I realize, I'll be like, I imagine that was an excuse. I try to see past resentment when dealing with it, and it's replaced with empathy, unconditional love, understanding, and just, it's great. I want to attract people who truly want to be honest. It's ridiculous for people to think that you should not say something. Why should we be so focused on, they're just judgments. Sometimes you may not always like something someone does or says. It's just, you get it out. It doesn't mean the person changes. You just live in peace. Honestly, people say you shouldn't be honest about things like that. You should just live and let live. But if we were able to let out our resentments or our envy or our anger or our opinions and everything else, it wouldn't build up, and I imagine we wouldn't be beating the shit out of people, we wouldn't be whatever. Sure, some people get mad and can't take the truth, but if we teach people and we stay with them and we teach them how to take the truth and either use it if it serves them, the truth of somebody else about them, take it, and if it serves them, they go with it. If it doesn't, and they're just like, oh, well, I resent you for thinking that about me. And sure, a lot of people are like, okay, well, that's confrontation. So what? So what? Just because you see in the news that you think confrontation leads to people killing and people doing wars and people doing whatever, you are a civilized human being. I am a civilized human being. So, sure, people can snap in a second. I know these counter thoughts because I think them sometimes. I wonder. However, I've been put in radically honest situations against me, or me against, not against, but to somebody else. And it really does not end up that way. It has not ended up that way in my experience. With people who are willing to go there with you. With people who aren't, sure, it starts to get that way because those people aren't wanting to be at that level of honesty, or they just really can't stand conflict, or they think it's conflict. But what it really is that it's conflict resolution. Holy jeez, it's conflict resolution. Resolve your issues by being honest. Anyway, this is going to be a really long video. I'm going to cut it off here. If you got to the end, thank you for hearing me out. Suggestions, constructive criticism, all that is not a bad thing. Bring it on. Have a nice day or evening. Namaste.
Get out of your mind! Hey, 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 hey!